The American Revolution. Why is it important? Because James I of England, he was also a king of Scotland during the gunpowder plot. Someone called Guy Fawkes failed to kill him. United Kingdom, New Zealand, South Africa, Canada, and some places in Australia and USA still celebrate it with fireworks as the Guy Fawkes Day. Science fiction. There is a famous graphic novel on a dystopian future called Five for Vendetta. Jamestown, Virginia, year of 1607, King James I of England granted the rights to explore the London and Plymouth companies. Jamestown was the first permanent English settlement in the Americas. Location on the map shown by the J, which is showing that Plymouth, Germany, and London Company, which is occupied, and the overlapping area of yellow was granted to both the companies on the stipulation that neither found a settlement within 100 miles, that is 160 kilometers, of each other in that middle coverage of the red and green line that is pointing the yellow coverage. The causes of the conflict, the discontent, the lack of representation in the British Parliament, the dependence on Great Britain for trade, the impossibility to occupy extensive territories located to the west of the colonies which were reserved for the British. The taxes such as the Navigation Acts, Sugar Act and Currency Act, Stamp Act or the Tea Act among others. The spark The spark causes belly that set off the conflict was the new tax on tea exportation, leading to the protest called the Boston Tea Party. The harsh repression by the British authorities led to the War of Independence in the year of 1775 1783. Political revolution and the new state. On 4th July 1776 was proclaimed the Declaration of Independence and USA was born. It recognized the equal rights of all people, the rights to life, liberty, and pursuit of happiness, and national sovereignty. Great Britain had to accept it. After being defeated in Yorktown 1781 and had to sign the Treaty of Versailles 1783, USA was created as a federal republic. Under the new constitution of 1787, the first ever to be written. The first time it was written the Constitution. The Constitution establishes national sovereignty, separation of powers, and recognize border rights such as freedom and property. Spain and America. Spain declared war on Britain as an ally of France and provided supplies and munitions to the American forces. Charles III of Spain and Prime Minister Florida Blanca were also repelled by the idea of an independent and powerful American republic, which would threaten Spain's own colonies and later did. Spain assisted the American army in Yorktown, which is New York, in the year of 1781 and in the Treaty of Paris gained the Florida. So later the Latin American War of Independence were the revolution that took place especially during the Peninsular War in the year of 1808 to 1825. La Independencia de America Latina in language. There you people seeing a map which is pointing about the importance of the territories which was the Sediosus Ortros of Paz, which is about the independence of the Latin American colonies. That Estados of United in the year of 1795, Florida Estados of United in the year of 1819, and Cuba 1898, and Santo Domingo in the year of 1795, Puerto Rico in the year of 1898, Haiti in the year of 1804, and Trinidad and Grand Britannia in the year of 1797. These are the places where gotten independence after that recovery of a fight which was stopped between Spain and Britain. There you are seeing the Latin America in the year of 1800, which is under the coverage of the Spanish, and that yellow coverage of Portuguese, and the orange coverage is that place of French, and that purple which is pointing about the Dutch, and the red mark which is pointing about the British colonies, which is there in that place of Latin America in the year of 8800. And there you are seeing the Latin America map of in the year 1830, which is in that colors which is mentioning the independent countries in that purple color, and that orange color which is pointing under the French, and the Bolivar which is in that dark color of lavender, and red dotted of light which is pointing the major battle taken place. And there you are seeing the common patterns of Latin American wars of our independence. How long they are struggled of that each of every spotted, and which is led by the upper class colonials and cereals except Haiti slave revolt, and benefited from Napoleon's conquest of the Spain and Portugal, and inspired by French and American Revolution, and these leaders educated in enlightenment ideas. Independence was successful, nation building was not happened accurately. What are the key words? War of independence, colonists, loyalists, boycott, act to set off a conflict, national sovereignty, equal rights, pursuit of happiness, treaty, revolution, mutiny, riot, protest, legislative, executive, judicial, Boston Tea Party, Battle of New York Town, and Treaty of Versailles, which is came to an end. Next to the French Revolution, why is it important in our history? The cause and start of a historical revolution, political and ideological, is the great causes. The first criticism to absolutism by the Enlightenment, to the attainment of the knowledge by the people in that society. Social, the nobility and the clergy had lost power to absolute monarchy, and the peasantry and urban poor were living in misery in a great complication of life. Economic, a food crisis due to the poor in the poor harvest, and a financial crisis of the monarchy. And the spark, which is the casus belli, happened in the year of 1789 when King Louis XVI summoned the Estate General and representatives of the Third Estate demand a voting system based on one vote per person. All demands were rejected, so they created a parallel assembly called the National Assembly, representing the people of the nation. The first storming of the Bastille in the year of 1789, month of July 14th. Taking the Bastille means still today seize weapons in order to defend something as the Constituent Assembly. There you are seeing a great war against the monarchy by the peasantry people. 10 years of a revolution, which was started in the year of 1789 to and 91, the National Constituent Assembly created a draw up a new constitution for France, done in the year of 1791, and 1789 Declaration of the Rights of a Man and Citizen in the year of 1789, and 91-92 the Legislative Assembly. It faced opposition from the king and nobility, and clashes between the Girondins and Jacobins. And 1792-95, the National Convention Jacobins government under the Robespierre led to the terror and many guillotine executions. The death of Marat, who is fought for that national unity among the people. Okay, and 1795 and 99, the Directory and the Consulate of Girondins took power in a five-member directory Napoleon became the famous general after his campaign in Egypt and Syria. 1799 Coupe dated of Napoleon Bonaparte, new government of three councils. Soon Napoleon became the first council and seized the power. Declaration of the Rights of a Man and Citizen in the month of August 26, 1789. The five rights stated in the Declaration of Rights of Man. First one, men are born and remain equal before the law. Second one, freedom of speech, press and religion. Third one, right to take part in government. Fourth one, right to hold public office. And fifth one, right to a fair trial. There you are seeing the picture of death of Mart. I knew that he Mart was preventing France. I have killed one man to save 100,000. Charlotte Corday has written in that statement. Mart David. Mort de Mort in the year of 1793. Jacques Louis did. David, who was a Jacobin. What were the cause of the French Revolution? The Spain crisis of the old regime. First, it starts in the Charles IV year of 1788-1808. Fear, the revolution would spread to Spain. The Enlightenment reforms were halted and war was declared to France. Betrayal, Prime Minister Gaudy allied with Napoleon. Sea Treaty of Fontainebleau. Gaudy would allow Napoleon's invasion and he would get one third of Portugal parts and abdications of Bayonne. The entry of French troops into Spain caused the mutiny of Aranjuez in the year of 1808. Gaudy was demoted. Charles IV abdicated the throne in favor of his son Ferdinand, and Ferdinand abdicated into Napoleon, who gave the crown to his brother Joseph I Bonaparte. Spanish people were divided into affranchisers and patriots. The war against Napoleon is began with Manifesto del Alcalde de Móstoles on the 2nd May 1808. Goya's painting about it. The Spain and Portugal were supported by the British Arthur Wellesley, Lord Wellington, and General Dupont army was defeated and left Spain after Vittoria battle in the year of 1813. French Revolution. Causes of the French Revolution. There you are seeing in the picture about the first causes of the French Revolution. The France sent troops and supplies to aid the American Revolution and introduction of revolutionary ideas and take up a army against the tyranny and liberal freedom for all men and a republic superior and another part of age of enlightenment liberal society and flourished with the commerce and the population divided into three states. The first one clergy, next nobility and common, the third, and the finance was an absolute monarchy with a weak monarch. That's what the major drawbacks of the France to read the revolution. Inept ruler King Louis 16. French Revolution and French society. The first estate, which is following the Catholic clergy and the 5% of the popes, did not pay taxes. And second estate, the nobility 1.5% of the population, except from many taxes. And third estate, rest of population, the bourgeoisie, wealthy middle class, and sans culottes working class, provided bulk of French tax revenue which made the people to go against of the monarchy. The first class people of the first estate and second estate, those were not in the session of paying tax, which made this third estate of the population go against of it. There you are seeing the third three estate in pre-revolutionary France. In that 98% of the population, the land ownership consists of the 65% and taxation is 100%. The first clergy, which is 10%, no need to pay a tax, and second estate, the overpopulation, which is pointing the blue color, there are also in the exception of tax, and the third estate, the common people who were in that 100% population, they were insisted and forced to pay a tax. And political inequalities for middle classes, there you are seeing the first estate among the four members, there it's given the one vote per family, and second estate among the eight members, it's given that one vote for that family, and third estate, which is consisting about the 12 members, on that only will get the vote, and exits, which is pointing about the representatives, so which is not given the equally rights to the all the people. And the first estate is second estate, which is consist only the noble families and also the papas. And financial crisis during 1780, 50% of revenue went to pay off the debts only of the American Revolution, lavish lifestyle of the monarchy, and series of bad harvesters as in the year of 1787 and 88. Bread pieces went up to the 50% of tax in the year of 1789. Need for tax reform. Louis XVI hoped to raise a tax on the aristocracy, but aristocracy resisted reforms, forced Louis to call the Estate General for the first time since in the year of 1614. Discussion the question: what were the similarities between the long term causes of the American and the French Revolution? The differences: Phase 1: Moderate liberal goal and create constitutional monarchy. Calling of the Estates General in that Assembly of the France, there they gathered the three estates. The first one of that noble family, and the first one of the papacy family, and the second one the noble family, and the third estate the common of the people. The National Assembly and the gathered in the side of that overall of National Assembly. The outside of the people were gathered in the place of the tennis court, and they made gone against of the assembly in the argument of fight of liberty, equality, fraternity. Why revolution? The revolutionaries demanded end to ancient regime, that old order, the absolutism, noble and church feudal privileges, which should come to end, and slogan of revolution, which was pointed by the people: liberty, equality, fraternity, which is pointing about the brotherhood. And there you're seeing the picture of Marquis de Lafayette, the Declaration of the Rights of Man and Citizen, 1789. Declaration of Rights of Man and Citizen based on the ideas of enlightenment and Declaration of Independence. All people are equal before law. Freedom of speech, press, and religion protected against arbitrary arrest and punishment. Did not grant equal rights to women. Storming the Bastille. Storming of the Bastille, the member of Third Estate took it over to gain gunpowder and free political prisoners. Important, symbolized the start of the revolution, which is called in the name of Bastille Day, national holiday on July 14th in France till now. The following the system: storming of the Bastille, how the public of the peasants were going against of the soldiers in France, those were made to stand out of the Bastille fort by the king of Louis XVI, and the queen, both were escaped from that palace, and people started against to beat, throwing the stake and to stone against of the monarchy window. France enters the Great Fear, general revolts against old feudal regime, clergy, and nobility. And March on Versailles, which was happened in the month of October 5th, 1789. There you are seeing the picture of the blue marked map. There all the village peoples, all the peasants, all the third level of the stratification of the society, people of knights and soldiers family, and especially the peasants family, how they are carrying the things, the stake, and the peasant used to keep the tools of using the cultivation areas, whatever in that usage of tools, they carrying on their arms. And women's march on Versailles. What is the result? Royal family forced to come to Paris. Louis forced to sign new constitution. France now a constitutional monarchy. Critical intro. Why do you think all of the event leading up to their reign of terror were viewed as moderate considering some of the violent actions during those events? Phase 2, 1792 and 1794, the Great Radical. Why? Goal, a republic, eliminate monarchists and counter-revolutionaries. What is that? European nation attack France. Nations Great Britain, Spain, Austria, Prussia take advantages of instability, attack France because they used the great revolution of the people, those were gone against of the monarchy, that made the other nations of Great Britain, Spain, Austria to took part against to capture the place of France. Two political parties. One is Jacobins, another one is Grandist. And Jacobins has rejected anything that resembled the old order and wanted more changes, led by the Maximilian Robespierre. And Girondists felt that revolution had gone far enough and wanted to protect the wealthy middle class, and Jacobin gained control. Critical intro. Why were all events up to the reign of terror considered moderate? Radicals take control. Arrest of Louis XVI, August 10, 1792. Louis XVI. The decline of the monarchy. Louis XVI tried to flee with his wife family to Austria, was caught and returned to Paris. Neighboring countries began to worry about their own monarchies. All noble families were cried because of the capture of Louis XVI by the public. French emigres, the nobles who fled from France, tried to convince other countries to restore Louis XVI to save execution of Louis XVI, but unfortunately, people were made him to in the guillotine and cut the neck of Louis XVI the month of January 21st, 1793. And monarchy dead, republic is born. In the Jacobin radical revolutionary who gone against of the monarchical system and who made as a one head of the public of peasant people in the middle class, and universal adult male suffrage and universal military duty, abolished slavery, fuels Haitian revolution, and increased rights for women, would not participate in politics, attacked Catholicism and spirit of nationalism. Reign of Terror, which was happened in the year of 1792 to 1794. Reign of Terror, which was led by the Maximilian Robespierre, and find and eliminate the enemies of the state, and there he concentrated the side of monarchists and counter-revolutionaries, as many as 40,000 killed by guillotine. The first maximum of our politics ought to be to lead the people by means of reason and enemies of the people by terror. British view of Reign of Terror. There you are seeing the picture. How they are made is in a comical thing like the king and the queen as a great one which look like they are made this painting. End of the terror. Robespierre is killed. The French Revolution taken a part of 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. The fifth of the year, July 28, 1794. There you are seeing the picture of the guillotine, how the people also is murdering and are killing the people of noble family in the guillotine. And phase 3 in the year of 1794 to 1815, the conservative and reactionary goal to end terror and established directory. They want to control the violent step of the people, those were taking against of the noble family, and entirely they want to make a change. Directory and rise of Napoleon in the year of 1799 to 1815. There you are seeing the picture of Napoleon who is raised his hands and stand and talking and with a group of the noble family in the black army dress and rise of Napoleon, the directory, ineffective governing body following terror, failed to solve economic problem of France and Napoleon staged a coup defeat in 1799, becomes emperor in the year of 1804. Goals of Napoleon. The first one is increase the feeling about the nationalism of France and control of Europe, improve the education in the side of technical schools and universities and secondary schools, and required all citizens to pay taxes and establish central bank, improve the legal system as whatever misunderstood misled by the governors as before the generals, and simplified the French law code into the Napoleonic Code. And the Napoleonic Code in the year of 1804 purposes reform the French legal code to reflect the principle of French Revolution and create one law code for France influenced European legal codes. There you are seeing the article 1 which is pointing about the European code and which is in the language of it is look like English but it is in the language of French. Building his empire after defeating Austria and Italy, he convinced Russia to drop out of the war. Also invaded Spain and Portugal. Britain was left as the only country opposing Napoleon. Continental system order, ordered all European nations to stop trade with Britain and goal isolate Britain and promote Napoleon mastery over Europe because of the strong strength of Napoleon who fought against of the Spain and Austria which comes under the Italy which was under the arm of control of Napoleon, so Britain was isolated itself and Russia another side. So now Napoleon thought to capture the place of Russia and also the Britain to make over of an arm and a control. There you are seeing the areas barred and from importing British goods. Only the Spain and Denmark of other side, which is in the dark of orange color, which is pointing the side of France. Napoleon Empire, there you are seeing in the color of green. Wherever that green colors were spreaded, it's pointing the Napoleon control. Holland and the Pius and Austria, which comes under the Napoleon arm. And Napoleon empire was elaborated, which is pointing the purple color wherever it is that all over the place was gone under the arm of Napoleon and downfall of Napoleon. Unwantedly, when Napoleon has taken a war against of Russia with 6 lakh men of soldier and Russians executed the scorched earth policy, no food or shelter for French troops, and Napoleon had to withdraw because of the harsh Russian winter season and the Russians attacked them the whole way back, and 5 lakh of his warriors, the soldiers, were died, and French severely weakened, and Spain, Russia, Prussia, Britain, Austria, and Italy attacked France together when he was in the out of condition, and there was no warrior to protected the territory of France, so that entire surrounding place started attacking the France. On March 14, 1814, Napoleon was forced to abdicate the throne and he was exiled into Elba. Napoleon failed of Russia, invasion of Russia. There you are seeing the picture how critically he has taken his war troops to the place of the winter season and which made the great sufferings of his warriors made and great diseases were spread and they fell into the death because of the inconvenience of the climate and Napoleon Empire that you are seeing in the color of sky blue and this is the France in the year of 1799 and left Napoleon's empire by in the year of 1812. There you are seeing the Napoleon's retreat from the Russia and this should not be a prison in the place of Elba. In that palace they isolated Napoleon. Final debate. Napoleon escapes from the Elba and leads France for 100 days. Europeans invaded France and defeat Napoleon for good at in the place of Waterloo. Exiled to St. Helena, there you are seeing he was surrounded by all the people of the Britain force. And Battle of Waterloo, which is defeated Napoleon for good, and British and Persians defeated Napoleon in the place of Waterloo, very famous war, and Napoleon's downfall. Could not conquer British Navy, guerrilla movement in Spain and Portugal, and failed invasion of Russia, and final defeat at the place of Waterloo. Napoleon banished to St. Helena in the spot that you are seeing in this picture, the colony of St. Helena, a great island. Legacy of Napoleon. What is that? Unsuccessful attempt of unify Europe under French domination and because he is made an attack and taken the underarm of the Austria and Spain, but he is not made the great unity among them. What are the places he captured in Europe? That's what the one fault and Napoleonic code which is great influence on modern European legal codes and great one and next spread of nationalism in Europe. German and Italian unification happened and Greek independence. Next, legacy of the French Revolution, global independence movements, Haitian Revolution, Latin American independence, triggered by Napoleon's invasion of Spain, Egypt broke away from Ottoman Empire, and slave trade and slavery. England abolished slave trade in the year of 1807, slavery in the year of 1833, which is selling the slaves, and Brazil lost to abolish the slavery in the year of 1888. Abolition of serfdom, except in Russia. There you are seeing the clergy, which is in that pointing the stratification, which was followed in the beginning in French monarchy.